Hello, y'all. I guess I'll go ahead and take over for Scout for this month's meeting. We don't have any set agenda items, but does anyone have any updates or questions they would like to share with the group?
Tweet, tweet. I
Ron,
do.
I'm assuming you'd like to go first. Love to hear what's
Well,
new with
okay.
you
So
in terms of projects.
here's a situation that I've come across before, and then I've been asked to look at again. And this is going out to those folks who have adapted toys and devices in the past. So I'm looking for your opinion and thoughts on that. What you find on a lot of these smaller toys, like this bird that someone wanted adapted, and I know the glare is kind of bad, but the screws are covered with these plastic inserts that prevent the screws from being seen and kind of protect them. And the problem is that these are set to be one-way plastic pieces. So you press it in, it locks in, and you're pretty much never going to get it out from what I could tell, except prying it and scratching the heck out of it, which I think I did to this bird at some point. I gave up on the bird. So what happened was then I had a request from somebody, can this device is a battery powered window suction cleaner thing. So you wet your window and then you press the button here and it sucks the water away. I don't know how much time saving this is, and you could tell it's pretty darn big. But anyhow, they wanted to switch adapt this, but getting into it, what did I see again? I see these lovely plastic annoying covers. Now, the only thing that I could think of, and I've done this on other stuff, is to drill them out. So I could drill out the plastic, and at that point, the screw in there will be exposed. Um, but if like this doesn't convert, they would want to be able to return it. And if I drill out those holes, it's not going to be returnable, at least not ethically returnable, depending on your opinion of Amazon at any one point. So I wanted to know if anybody had seen these before, had dealt with these before, and most importantly, had any tips on that.
I've never seen them before, Ron.
Unfortunately, neither have I. But apparently Shannon has so many questions as she put in the chat.
Oh,
Okay, so that's a window cleaner.
Yes.
So you're gonna have a mount. If somebody needs a switch, how are they gonna?
I don't know.
yeah,
So
I
I mean,
think
I think
that's a
I think-
perfect example of asking somebody, how do you envision using this?
Right.
It's adapted.
Right. Now
Um,
this is coming not from users, but it's coming from professional people. So
Well,
I'm assuming that they have.
so I'm gonna get on a little bit of a soapbox,
Uh-huh.
and everybody gets so excited about switch adapting things, but you do have to keep that end user in mind and the complexity of the different end users that we work with. And I look at, so a really good friend of mine is a quadriplegic and he's an attorney. And I can guarantee you he does not have a goal on washing windows because he's got people that will do that for him.
Right.
But then I could see it in a classroom where we've watered plants with certain things, or there's other things we've adapted them for. So you've taken like a little, you remember those old toothbrush or water jets for your teeth? Yeah, and you can adapt those so that you can like water plants with them and have water gun fights with them and things like that. So if they have another purpose for it, then I could see, yeah, let's adapt it. But you really need to know what they're going to do with it in regards to that. And then my other soapbox for toys is I have at any given time on a weekend, I've got 2 to 4 kids and they play with something for about 2 seconds and then they switch to something else. And when you're adapting a toy, then you're requiring the adult to change that toy out every time they lose interest. But then they're relying on the adult and they don't really have independence. So it's fun for 10 pushes. And I say after 10 pushes, get rid of it and give them something else, because that's what typical kids go through. But wouldn't you rather see them on like some of these really nice book programs where they're using switches to activate some of the animation so that it's giving them the skills to be future readers, future communicators, and scanning and things. So we get kind of so caught up on, we can do this maker stuff, but you got to keep the end in mind and what we're going to be doing. And I like to use the toys to get kids to understand that they can hit it and make something happen. But I'm only going to use one toy for about 10 trials, and then I'm going to switch the toy, and that's to show them that something else happens. But as soon as I've got them consistently hitting the switches, I want to move them on to like literacy and something that's going to help them grow, because your typical kid gets so many experiences with books. And think about, I read to my grandkids every night, and our kids get none. So we've got to be able to multiply that access to literacy and writing and a means to communicate in other ways than speech. Like writing's one of my big soapboxes. Is
You're making the bird very sad.
But toys are fun, and it's not that I don't, but I just keep the end in mind.
Yeah, I understand your points, and I think they're excellent. I mean, that's great stuff for me to know. But I'm also coming from the standpoint of, I'm the guy who people send things to say, hey, Ron, can this be converted? So mine is less to do about what's the educational benefit and more to do with how do you take this apart? And for Bill, the question this originally came up with, this is a huge vacuum thing, which I agree should not be switch adapted because I don't see the value. But the problem is I've got these covers that are non-removable without drilling them out to get at the screws to actually take it apart to see if it can even be switch adapted. That's where that.
But is it a vacuum that could bring a ping pong ball closer to a child that would allow them to then pick up a ball? And
yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who the user is on this. So this is, hey, we've got this. We don't know how to adapt it. Can it be adapted? And then I'll come back to them and say, yeah, I think it can. Like this sort of thing, it's got a lithium-ion battery inside probably because it's rechargeable. So just having that would have me say, no, don't adapt it because that's a fire risk. The bird does too, but he's smaller. But the bird has exactly the same problem. He's got those hidden screws. And for the toy, it makes more sense to me. I guess for this, it makes sense.
Hey, Ron?
To keep water out.
Ron?
Yes.
So several things. First of all, yeah, you definitely need to go back to the vacuum guys and say, what are you trying to achieve here? But yeah. as far as the little bird, did you say that is rechargeable?
No, the bird is not.
Okay. So
the bird, you actually open its ass.
Okay.
And take the batteries out.
Right. So two things then. Number one is, yeah, so the fact that they put these plugs in, that's the start of what manufacturers will do to you. They will also glue things together.
Yeah.
So that's just the start. But if you've got access to the battery compartment, well, then there's always battery interrupters. You don't have to do any work.
Right. So this one, it's so tightly designed on the bird. Let me bring it down a little bit. I mean, they engineered the hell out of this toy. It's really amazing. And so yeah, his butt comes off.
But a battery interrupter would probably work in there, Ron.
Oh, I remember why it doesn't, because it's all soft start. It's all software based. There's a
okay. Well, then you got other problems.
Yes, exactly.
So the plugs are the start of your problems and probably the least of your problems.
Right. And amazingly, there is a gentleman in Australia who did try to get into one of these because it was his niece's favorite toy. And he said the only way he was able to get into it was to drill out the plastic.
Right. And the other thing I'd say, Ron, is drill out the plastic. What the hell? It's an inexpensive toy, theoretically, even though
Right.
it's a little bit more complex in electronics. And drill out the plastic, see if you can hardwire that switch so it's always on, and then use your battery interrupter.
Right. And on this toy, I'm not even going to bother because I don't do adapted toys.
Okay.
Really. I do it as if somebody asks for how to do it versus actually doing it. Because for me, the labor is too time consuming. It just takes too much time. So yeah, the bird is a lost case anyway. So my cat's been playing with him.
All right.
And then the vacuum, it will be I'll go back to them and say, hey, why? Also because the button on the vacuum is really not horribly placed. I mean, if you've got to grip it, it's easy. Now, if you can't grip it, but this thing is heavy to begin with, so you wouldn't grip it anyway. So that's my adventure in adapting.
Good luck.
And Ron, I do have a comment about you're just asked to adapt them, but I do think if we were working together, if we start asking the whys, I think that the end user will be much happier with the product when we really keep that end in mind.
Right. I agree. The thing is like when you have folks like Ken and I who are like known as the makers or of not, I'm sure other people in this group are too, but then we post on AT Makers, and then all we get is emails from folks saying, hey, can I adapt this? Can I adapt that? How can I do this? And my son has this. But I agree, we need a better process because it can't go through Ron.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have too many projects. This is what builds
That's a
up
good
my
problem to
project
have.
list. Yeah.
So Ron, I would also say anything you learn from your discussion, share it with this team.
Yeah.
And everyone will learn what,
Yeah.
get some special insights here.
That's a good point. Good point.
There's an Instagram I'm following now, and it's a real creative physical therapist that's doing a lot of things with like that to make toys and physical therapy or adapted PE things. And I'll share that Instagram with y'all. Which is the one time I didn't bring my phone. No, I do have it. But I was really impressed with all the things he was creating that were really practical for lots of kids and lots of activities. And so for that, I was like, yeah, game on. But it's not teaching them how to just do a switch. It was using like a leaf blower to make a scarf blower that kids could practice catching with and fun stuff.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I'll find the list and share because I was really impressed with this adapted PE. Of course, now I'm not going to be able to find it.
Is that Jeff Watkins?
He's up north somewhere.
I don't remember where he is. I see him on Twitter.
Now this, I came across it. I don't know how, but I'll find the name. Give me 1 second. And
so Cole, while Shannon's looking, I have something to share.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'll share screen to do it. So I saw this mail in the quiet mailing list a while back. Ron saw it too, I guess, because he commented. Someone was saying, hey, I have a team wanting to find something that can be attached to a student walker and provide auditory feedback when a student nears an obstacle for safety, awareness, and mobility. Any ideas for a cheap sensor with adjustable distance? Ideally, it would act like candy corn, blah, 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 blah. We don't need switching function. I am seeing alarms for home security and driveways, but the distance doesn't appear adjustable enough. We would want the auditory feedback to be loud enough for the student to hear, but not so loud that it interrupts the classroom. Alarms for a distance of 6 inches or so would be great. Any further, and it will constantly be set off by the classroom environment. So first thing I would say here is, yeah, it'd be interesting to know a lot more about how they really envision this thing working and in what settings, and know more about how this walker is moved such that 6 inches is sufficient warning. or maybe, yeah, just a whole lot of background there. I've been unable to get Jessica, Bo, and Taylor to respond directly, but sometimes people are afraid to do more than just put out a request. Anyway, my response to this was, hey, boy, this sounds like a simple task for a Arduino or Raspberry Pi and a proximity sensor. And these things are cheap, cheap, cheap. I didn't realize how cheap till I ran it by a guy. Let's see here. Okay, anyway, here. I did some checking what's commercially available, and there's something you can put on a cane, which I assume would be a walker too. Costs about $550 per sensor. So if you want it on both sides of your walker, that's going to be over $1,000. There's something you can wear on your wrist for about $300. It has haptic feedback as you approach something. I saw some videos about how it works. Something you can attach to your clothing, up around your neckline or so, or pocket. And all of these things are very, very good, but they start sensing around 20 feet away and then provide some sort of haptic or auditory feedback that varies as you get closer to the object. But you can see they're all in the multi-$100 range. So I talked to this guy. Again, it's amazing what happens when you just come across people. So this guy wanted some help with keyguard design, but he said, hey, I also know a lot about Raspberry Pi, and I'd be interested in helping you out anytime. Well, my idea of Raspberry Pi and his idea of what a Raspberry Pi is and can be is very different because he just knows more. So I was right away thinking, no, it'd have to be Arduino or something to be low power, blah, blah. Anyway, so he put together something here that's just the beginnings of it. And it's actually smaller than it looks here, because this is a Raspberry Pi Pico, which I'd never heard of before. It's a very low power device. And there's a lot of other things that are really sweet about it that has me thinking, man, maybe I should have used this in the voice it rather than the Arduino that I used. But there's your proximity sensor right here. The Pico costs $5. The sensor costs about the same. I had never seen anything like this that cost $5. $5. So this is what I envision, is that you have multiple sensors. You could have 2, you could have 4, depending on how you wanted to use it, that are all wired into a central box that is a Raspberry Pi with a speaker inside, because you only need one speaker. But you could also come out of here with, or come into here with these, out of it, I guess, with these little vibration motors that could provide that haptic feedback on the rails. So if something was over on this side, it vibrates on this side. If something's over on this side, it vibrates on this side. Things like that. But we're talking $2.25 a piece for the vibration motors. I'm not talking about the enclosures. That stuff's all 3D printed for really cheap too. These guys, like I said, are $5 a piece. You could have multiple of them. And then the Raspberry Pi and speaker, and that's ignoring the fact that somehow you have to provide power to this thing. So there's going to be a rechargeable battery and a mount for a rechargeable battery and a way for the Raspberry Pi to plug into something, because I don't believe in soldering. And then just a bunch of connectors and wires and things like that. So I'm adding about another $20 here for just that. But you're looking on average about $45 for this thing, and it's way more functional than any of these other guys. And these are like way too far away. They start alarming. This guy has a much more, it's a much less sensitive to things. So it's only going to be in a 3 foot to 3 centimeter range. So we haven't tried any of this stuff, haven't wired any of this stuff up yet, haven't programmed it yet, but boy, this seems really, really interesting possibility here. Also, its expandability is nice, so it's customizable, and what kind of feedback you provide, what kind of distances you set, and really cheap, and it's a fun new thing to learn, which is MicroPython is the language used. Version of Python designed for microcontrollers and microprocessors. Anyway, thought I'd share that with you guys because I had never heard of this thing before. This Raspberry Pi Pico, and boy, that is really cool.
That is really cool, Ken.
And
Might
any
wanna
thoughts
look
we
at-
had problems might run into that we don't even know yet because we haven't tried it.
Yeah, you could even set your sensors high and low and watch out for head. I mean, at a school you're not going to have much up high, but if the person is out and about, it would catch tree branches before you hit them or something.
Right. There is a whole set of questions here. This is gathering requirements that would talk about operationally, how is this used in what settings? If you're waiting until something is 6 inches away before you alert on it, well, you're either moving really slow or you're moving really slow or you're whatever's around you is moving really slow. So yeah, there's a lot of that to consider. So I'm trying to think about this not being outside, because things tend to move really fast outside, though I suppose they do in the classroom too. Yeah, so anyway, the other thing I was going to say is I haven't heard back from what did I call her? Jessica, I think.
Jessica, yeah, I think so.
Jessica. So if any of you folks, well, the first thing would have to happen is someone else would have to have a similar need in their classrooms, and they'd be willing to give it a try and provide some direction too along the way as to why 6 inches, why not 2 feet, and how important is auditory if you have this haptic or tactile aspect to it.
Yeah,
Because
if it's
auditory is
moving with
definitely
hands
up.
on the handle.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Bill.
I was just saying, yeah, the use case is the question. And if the walker is always being moved with hands on the handle, a little vibration motor on the handle, depending on how you position it, even and how tightly you position it, could even produce a small amount of noise. So that could give you your auditory and tactile feedback. That's not going to be heard from across the room if you do it right. And just like you've got the Pico, the Pi board there, and Arduino Nano for about the same price point will do the same thing.
Yeah, the thing I discovered about this Pico or this Pi over the Arduino is in order to get software on the Arduino, you have to install the Arduino IDE on something, and you have to install all the libraries for whatever it is that you're writing software for. This is as simple as connect it to your laptop. It looks like a USB drive. Drag and drop a file, and you're done. That alone is reason enough for me to drop the Arduino approach. Now, Ron, I think knows a lot of Arduinos and probably would object, but
yeah. So one, yeah, I agree. If you need to compile the code, you need to do that. But if you have pre-compiled code that needs to be loaded, like for an update, on the newer boards, it shows up as a drive letter. You get it to reboot and shows a drive letter, and you drag and drop a UF2, which is just a compiled file.
But then I need to talk to you about that, Ron, because I thought I investigated all the ways to compile Arduino code and get it onto a box or onto a board, and there looked like there were no easy ways to do it. So I'm going to set up time to talk to you about that.
Yeah, this is not for compiling, so this is for a compiled code.
And that's okay because we provide the code.
Right. So
Download
for example, my users, my joystick users, some people might need some special setup, like they need right to go left, left to go right. So I could create that version of the code, do the UF2 file, put it up on GitHub and say, download this file. It's one tiny file, and then drag and drop.
Okay, so let's talk, because I don't even know how to do the.
Yeah, and that is on the boards, like the SAMD21 based boards, Adafruit's Cutie Pie boards, Feather boards.
Well, we'll talk further.
Yeah, it's worth doing. One thing, I know you didn't want to go super technical on this, but you're going to have to alternate between the two proximity sensors, otherwise they're going to interfere. They're ultrasound, so they both send at the same time. So they send in cones. So imagine a cone coming out.
Overlapping, sure.
So what I would do with that, if I wanted to use these ultrasounds, which are great because they're cheap and they're well known, is you have to send and receive on the left one, send and receive on the right one,
Okay.
and alternate. Now, keep in mind that alternation is very fast.
Right.
I mean, it's a human being would never notice it. It's like 24 frames a second on a movie, right? You don't notice the individuals.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
The vibration motors are a great idea. Also, it's great for consumer off the shelf because you could use the bigger vibration motors that are sold for gaming controllers. Because you have the little ones that are in cell phones, the little tiny ones, but the ones that are in the footprint of the gaming controllers are far stronger. So you get a good use out of that. I won't make a comment about your hate of soldering, so we'll move past that.
Please, let's do that. Yes. So,
Can I
so
chime in
Ron,
on a couple of
yeah,
sorry. Just a couple of thoughts. If you're going to move forward with the walker thing, if you have, was the idea to have the right proc sensor and the left proc sensor tied to the left handle and the right handle?
Yeah.
So okay, so that was one, and then the other one was to throw an encoder into the mix, so you can scroll up, scroll down, or either an encoder or like a just a slider to control distance. So
okay, yeah,
so it would be really easy for it to be adjustable by the end
For
user.
settings.
right.
Yeah, so you
Or
could,
on the fly settings, yeah.
yeah, on the fly settings, that would be huge for
Yep.
anyone actually trying to work with a student with this. If they can't, like if it is only, and then the other key point there is that it can tell you how far it thinks something is. So you can have it running on a scale. And then if it senses something really far away, you could have it go like bzz. And then if it gets like really like, so if it's really far away, if it's really, sorry, camera, if it's really far away, you could have it go like bzz, bzz, bzz. And then if it gets really close, you go bzz, bzz, bzz,
Right. You know, these haptic ones, Paul, what they do is they increase the vibration, so the amplitude of the
They
vibration.
do
as
the
you get
strength and the
closer.
pulses. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking a pulsed sensor. So
Oh.
if it's also because it's in a classroom setting and it's making noise.
Okay.
So if there's something really far away that's barely
Sure,
triggering it.
Yeah.
If you're going eyes closed, I don't know what this user, what their needs are. But if you were using it eyes closed, and you have something far away, you would be able to tell that there's something, your sensor's working, it's picking something up, and it is going at, it feels like it's 8 inches away. And then it feels like it's about 5 inches away. It feels like it's about 3 inches away. It feels like I'm right on top of it. Because
Right.
it's like a pulsed interface.
Right,
And
right.
if you were going to do audio, you could just have it be like volume
Or tone.
or a tone. If you're going to do audio, I'd probably have one tone for left, one tone for right.
Yeah, see, that was the other thing we're thinking about is since audio is so broad in its output, meaning you're gonna hear it everywhere. So the question is, how do you indicate left versus right? And so
Yeah, I think haptic is the way to
differences.
go. Haptic is the way to go.
It is, though, that she brought up acoustic for some, well, I should say that.
Well, yeah,
tone
but
for
people
some
bring things up
Mhm.
because they may not know other solutions too.
Right, for sure.
One thing I would add is throw in another $5 or $10 and put a laser sensor in the box. They are time of flight sensors, time of flight. They are better at shorter distances, about 2 centimeters out to maybe a meter, though that's iffy. But my main concern with ultrasonics is that they're pretty rough in the data they provide back to you and not always reliable. Well, you could compare that to what the main box, or you could put laser sensors with the proc sensors so that the code can compare. So, okay, the laser is saying that you're 6 inches away from the wall, but the 2 lower ones are not. Well, there's something wrong. Well, maybe they're at a counter and the counter underneath is clear, but they're about to hit the cash register or who knows what, right? But those sensors are also, I mean, my God, they're so dirt cheap now.
What are they? They're called time of flight sensors?
Time of flight.
If you look
sensor.
up time of flight, I think it starts with VL. If you want to play with it, I'd recommend the Adafruit boards.
Yeah,
And it starts with VL or VLX.
Yeah. They are not good at centimeter ranging. I've used them a lot because I was working on a microscope project where I had to measure where the stage was, and they're no good for that. But they're good for a couple inches away. One way that they were commonly used too is in phones. So they could tell, besides the light sensor, they could tell if it's up to your head or not.
Well, let me thank you for all that input. I don't want to dominate things here. And just let me put in one last plug again and say, if you know of a teacher, a therapist, whoever would see this as valuable and be willing to provide some direction and hopefully some testing, please put them in touch.
Yeah, and we can open source it, so it's not a $500 product.
Oh, this is the only thing we do is open
Oh,
source.
it was so frustrating when I was looking at the links you had put up there, and I'm like, oh, it's just so typical,
Yeah.
$3, and I'm a guy who wants to make money on this stuff, and I look at it and shake my head. So,
I do it DIY, so I'm out of the loop. But
yeah.
I refuse to hold anything against these guys because they have so much other overhead that I don't have.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting project because I had somebody come to me, a older woman who was a cane user, and her mobility was declining, and she wanted to know how she could keep going, because you have to have two hands on a rollator because there's two brakes, but she still wanted a cane so she wouldn't run off a curb, and this wouldn't do curbs, but it would tell her if she was running into something.
It could do curbs.
If you pointed it right.
The right sensors. I mean, like the time of flight sensors, absolutely.
You could have it
I'd stick it right close to the wheels, just right above the wheels.
And pointing like straight down or at a 45, and then if it detects a large increase in distance between the sensor and the floor.
Right. And then that way, if you're gonna hit it, well, if you're gonna hit the your wall in a house, that you'd hit the jam.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we did that with a Go Baby Go car one time. We put basically stare detection into it, that it would stop the car and even reverse it.
Like the Roomba sensor?
Cool.
Basically, yeah, same idea.
So now we're running into that other area that I try to avoid like the plague, which is working on anything where somebody gets majorly hurt if my design failed, or even their DIY implementation of my design failed. So I get a little concerned about curbs. Anything that drops more than a few inches scares the hell out of me.
And that's true.
And I think for her, that's why she wanted
Grand Canyon.
Yeah, but she wanted to keep using her cane, because she had confidence with that. I will say I came up with a way for her to do it.
Ooh. And
it was I think it was called a life glider. So it's basically a walker, a rollator that's like a gait trainer, it goes behind you, but it had this seat that like when you're walking, it's right up in your butt. So like you just barely drop down and you're on a seat, but it had one brake, and it had two brakes on the wheels, but only on one side. So I actually had to move the side because she used her cane with her right hand. So I moved the brake to the left side, and she could move this. It comes with a seat belt. So her body was pushing the walker forward, and she was, so she could move it with one hand and her body and use her cane in her right hand. But it was just because I happened upon this life glider. Yep. Thank you, Paul. That's what I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. Yeah. Anyway.
All right, cool. I wanted to just share that and hear some input and put out
This is really cool though, Ken.
Yeah. All right, that's it. Thanks.
I guess I'll turn it back over to you, Scout. If you have any other requests or folks have any other projects they're working on?
Yeah. So
We-
I had this idea the other day, and I wanted to. So this morning when my computer was updating, I was like, okay, I have all the pieces. I wanted to know why. What is this? A pool noodle couldn't be a switch. So I put copper tape in there, and this was a huge, more of a pain in the butt than I expected. And it only works about half the time when I plug it in. But I don't know. I was just curious if anybody had done this and like what. No. But
Why do you suspect it's only working half the time? It seems
I don't
like a
know.
fine
I
idea.
didn't solder it, that's why.
Because I didn't solder it. Now it's not
I bet
working.
you're not far off, Ron. Like, I bet we're talking about the quality of the connection.
Yeah, it's just a connection issue. That should work.
There's a
Yeah,
reason why I
right,
don't
because-
breadboard.
There, it is a connection issue, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But putting the wire in there and taping it in and making it so it wouldn't pull out was stupid. But like it costs nothing.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a really cool concept. I gotta go to Walmart now, get myself a pool tube.
Got them. I
Right.
just got a couple from my backyard from Dollar Tree. $1.25 tree.
Yeah, these are
Right.
shorter than usual.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like it occurred to me that pipe insulation or a pool noodle could be a grip switch. So if anybody wants to run with that, go
Yeah,
for
that's
it.
a real good idea.
It's a great idea, Scout. Yeah, I've got one that we've been working on lately that I'd kind of like to get the group's feedback on. I don't have any visuals or anything, so I'm just going to have to talk through this. Ron's been in on some of these conversations, and Scout has heard a bit about it. Our ALS clinic wanted options for someone who wants to use an electric toothbrush. So they have enough arm strength to raise and use the thing, but they don't have the thumb strength to start it. So our initial answer was a simple lever strapped to the handle over the button. In fact, I think it was Ron found an easily 3D printable one, and we wound up kind of over-engineering it from there. But a simple class 3 lever so the person could use their whole hand to start the button, and that's great. But then the question was, what if they don't even have that much grip strength and need something even easier? So the train of thought was switch adapting a toothbrush sounds like a terrible idea because you don't want to open it up and cause the opportunity for water to get into it. Shannon, I don't know. That's a really interesting idea that I would be thrilled to hear more about.
I think there is because I think my son got offered a job doing some kind of cloud something for a toothbrush company. I'm
Jeez.
like, why would they need a cloud?
Oh, that's right. There was a big hack about that recently where toothbrushes were hijacked. That
Yikes.
is so. I'm sorry, but just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah, and I wonder about the access issues. If you don't have the strength to hit the button, do you have the dexterity? We're talking an ALS to activate the app, and who knows, possibly.
Or to brush your teeth.
Sure. So the next question was, how do we switch adapt this without opening it up? And so in talking with our kind of whole team here, the answer wound up being so far the combination of a battery interrupter and a reed switch inside the battery compartment. So a reed switch is activated by a magnet, and you have either normally open or normally closed circuit on that switch. So if we 3D print or otherwise make a small base for this thing with a magnet embedded in it, as long as the toothbrush is on the magnet, the circuit is open, it's not running, and the second you pick it up, it comes on. That works in certain types of electric toothbrushes. So the assumptions here are not a lithium-ion battery, so a removable, say, AA, and the type of switch that will stay on automatically once it's turned on. So we did that, and it worked. It's kind of a proof of concept. I wish I had it here with me. One of the toothbrushes that we had to try was a small, it was a kid's toothbrush. So it has a big chunky handle, which means there's a lot of spare space inside the battery compartment. The reed switch we used is tiny. It's not even a centimeter long and 2 millimeters in diameter. So we can fit it in some pretty tight spaces. But the part Ron hasn't heard yet, he knew we were ordering 4 different toothbrushes to try to see if it could work on sort of an adult-sized toothbrush. And those are engineered with very tight spaces, similar to your bird there, Ron, where we can't even fit this tiny reed switch inside.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I was
and
afraid of. Yeah.
and it turns out so many are sold just with different model numbers and different colors on the handle that 3 of the 4 are actually identical, just with different names and different price points.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So what we were kind of, Ariana and I were talking about this the other day, and a guy who's not a member of our group just happened to be sitting there and said, I can't help but butt in. Said, if you just need space in the battery compartment, why are you using AA's? Why not just swap out for AA's? And it turns out that's a really good solution. So she had already 3D printed a little TPU insert to try to fit and hold the batteries in position along with this reed switch. And to do that, adapting down the size of the battery needs from AA to AAA, our thought is we can put together an entire little insert so that we're not modifying the toothbrush at all. If you want a toothbrush that can be adapted for this purpose, we'll give you the base and we'll give you this insert that you just drop in the battery compartment, and now you're using
That's a great
AA's instead
idea.
of
I love
AA's.
that.
It makes it so easy. So we're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
voiding any
that's real
warranty
good.
or anything. Scout, yeah, please.
So first I have to ask, and we talked about this, but do you own an electric toothbrush,
Yes.
Bill? Okay.
Yes.
So have you ever accidentally taken it out of your mouth with it on?
That's already
Never
come up.
accidentally. Thanks to you, I've done it intentionally. Yeah. And so, yes, it's an issue for sure. There's a potential for mess there. One thought that Kyle Ann brought up that I wasn't familiar with is dry toothpaste tablets that you can use in place of toothpaste. So it simplifies getting it into the mouth. It essentially looks like a pill you throw in, you take a chomp, and then mix it with saliva, and it takes on sort of its paste form. Excuse me.
Scott, we've
And
talked about toothbrushes quite a bit.
yeah. And the other part of it is, I mean, regardless of how you activate it, like that's going to be an issue, right? So the person wants to use an electric toothbrush. It's one of those kind of, that's the risk they're willing to take of making a mess.
If you can't do that, I recommend a good old-fashioned toothbrush. And
Yes.
Right. Well,
but then you got to do, I don't know,
move more. The
robot
other thing,
arm.
what if, like, could you not bring the whole thing up? I mean, if they have use of both hands, could they not bring it up, put it in their mouth, and then release it, and then
Maybe.
put it back? I mean, the thing is if you brush your teeth long enough, it's going to stop, right? Oh no,
Yeah.
would it
no,
stop?
the ones we use don't stop.
Yeah,
Right.
some do. No.
That's short-circuited, but they could actually bring the switch back up and stop it if they didn't want the mess.
So that's one option. Yeah, that's a really neat idea. Go ahead.
1 or 2 hands to successfully. If you just hand them a power toothbrush that's turned on, can they get to the whole toothbrushing task with just 1 hand, or do they need both?
Good question. Don't know.
Yeah.
And if we want this to be applicable broader, that answer is going to be yes to both of those. We're going to have people who do both. So another option there.
I have a meta question for you before, and then people can get back.
Please.
Where do you guys document this stuff? So people can go see what you're doing and take ideas from you. And
so far, we haven't documented much. Anything that we make in our lab, we put on Thingiverse, which is, even if it's not 3D printable, which isn't ideal, but it's ubiquitous. People can find it as easily as they can anywhere else.
what's your account, whatever, that people would look things up? What's your channel there?
Yeah, let me find the exact address. Hold on.
Anyway, I would encourage you to set up something more formal. Then, yeah, on occasion we post stuff on Thingiverse. Thingiverse isn't the best place to put anything, but
Yeah, no, I get that. We're in, yes, I agree with you, and we have constraints with the fact that we're at an institution that, heck, if general counsel found out we were posting this here, they would throw a fit. So, and that's
So you're
about as
not
far as
trying to
I'm
get
willing to
wide
push them.
distribution right now?
I'm not trying to get myself fired. Wide distribution would be great, but wide distribution under the radar is better. I would rather put it out into the world and let someone else take credit for it and share it.
okay, well, that's a possibility, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thought then, coming back to that question, was to Scout's point and Paul's too, any magnet at that point can serve the purpose of turning it on or off. So it could be as easy as a little sleeve or glove that you could put on one hand, that as long as that is on there, it's active or not. We can also wire these reed switches to normally open or normally close. So it could be that it only activates when a magnet is near it. So only if you have the strap on your hand with a magnet and you hold the toothbrush.
Oh, I thought it
is
was
active.
normally open magnet equals close.
The way we have it right now is normally closed, so that when the magnet is away from it, it is active. So when you put it down on a base with an embedded magnet, it shuts off. But we could do
I
the
remember
opposite.
you talking about it, but I had that flipped in my brain.
Gotcha. So maybe flipping it is the answer
I
to
think
make it
having
so you
a
actively have
magnet,
to activate it.
yeah, I think having it so it's normally open, and then having a magnet in a glove or a magnet on a strap in your hand, or if there's a way to like put a magnet on a ring, like if you just super glue a magnet to a cheap plastic ring that you could
3D
Yeah.
printed.
yeah, just a
Well,
cheap ring. Can the person put a ring on?
Right.
good question. Probably not.
But I mean, if you have a powerful enough magnet and a sensitive enough reed switch, and you have it so that you're
Yes, Scout.
holding the toothbrush. I need a toothbrush. This is a toothbrush. You're holding a toothbrush with a ring, and then the magnet's on the inside of the ring.
Yep.
And if you want to, if you drop it, it doesn't stay running on
It
your
shuts
floor.
off.
And it doesn't vibrate
Or
off
if you
the
just
table.
if you drop it or just transfer it to the other hand, it's off before you take it out of your mouth. I
Yeah,
like that a lot. That gives a lot more control.
But the person does have to be able to put on a ring.
Yeah,
And have a magnet, because like if they got a pacemaker and they're wearing a magnet on a neodymium, a little powerful magnet, and they got a pacemaker.
Yeah, no, this would not be something that they have on them constantly for a lot of reasons. You don't want a magnet.
An implant.
Yeah, perfect.
Well,
But
just
even
implant a magnet in their hand.
Yeah,
well,
come
again,
on.
not that 3D printing is the solution to everything, but a little TPU ring that's big enough that you can just slide your thumb into it and back out of it with no effort. It doesn't need to stay on other than when you're using the brush.
But if it's sensitive enough, you could also have a hand strap. So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
A hand strap, and the magnet could be on either side of the hand.
Yep.
Or
So
even
really
like a
just-
thimble.
You could
know,
have-
just something
Yeah, thimble. Yeah.
you put your finger into, and then you can take it out.
And we just have to see where the nice thing about, again, switching to the AAAs, yeah, the batteries are going to die faster, but it buys us a lot of room in that battery compartment to figure out where we want to position the reed switch to get it in the closest proximity to where we think that magnet would need to fall. So we can decide, do you want it in the palm? Do you want it on the finger side? Do you want it somewhere else? And that's going to be just a matter of user testing and see where that works best.
I will say
again-
that 3D printed rings last forever. I 3D print my rings because
Oh, yeah?
I work in electronics all the time, and I don't need a metal ring shorting something out. And they're also very handy if you're doing machining or woodworking, because the ring will break away versus a steel or
I used to do the
Silver one.
silicone ones.
yeah, I like the silicone ones, right? Except mine's homemade. It's
I actually
bespoke.
3D printed my own too, and it was surprisingly comfortable. And but it's really nice because if you can 3D print a ring in like millimeter increments, it is an exact fit.
Yep.
Eventually.
Yeah, I'm getting a little fatter. Let me reprint my ring.
Got too fat I got married with a titanium ring, and the thing. I now have a 2-year-old, and I eat 2-year-old food all the time.
Well, and the nice thing is those magnets are so cheap and the TPU is so relatively cheap that we could send somebody 5 of them. And with it being just a drop-in insert in any toothbrush, we know these 3 models are all really the same thing. If you have any one of these 3, you get this drop-in insert and this glove to use, and you're good to go.
If you put a they oh crap. You know, the cell phone magnets come with
Oh
a little
yeah,
steel thing that goes
yeah.
to your phone. You could stick this to their bathroom counter, their bathroom mirror, and this could hold the magnet ring, magnet adaptive cuff.
Right,
Yep.
it's right there for you.
And then
Right.
you could just slip into the ring, slip into the cuff, pick up your
Yes.
toothbrush, brush your teeth, and then the magnet is, and then when you're done brushing your teeth, you stick the magnet back on the metal thing on the bathroom counter, and then
just
get
pull
it
your
off
hand
your
away.
hand. But if you have an
That's beautiful.
oversized ring, like a grossly oversized ring that has
Yes.
like 4 magnets in it, you could embed like 3 or 4 magnets in it, and then any of those magnets would activate your read switch.
Like
Yep.
those candy rings, those giant
Yeah,
candy.
Well, I was thinking if it's a ring with like 4 magnets in it,
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
you know, but then you wouldn't have to worry about having the ring positioned on your finger in the correct
Yeah.
orientation. The entire thing could be
Yeah, and the reed
magnetic
switch
now.
doesn't care about north or south, so.
No,
Right.
it might care if your finger is in the way of the magnet and the reed switch, and I would recommend not putting any more powerful of a magnet than you need.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just because of, magnets are kind of dangerous. They can be. I mean, like, that's super,
Yeah, we don't want
how do magnets even work?
to. Did not expect an ICP reference today, or want.
What reference?
You never know on these calls.
Reference?
I am familiar with that in terms of insane
Oh,
clown
yeah, no,
posse,
that's not what I was
ICP.
thinking. Yeah, I got you. But yeah, no. So
You should see Bill in his get-ups. It's quite impressive.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot better than my kiss.
So, looks like there's 5 minutes left. Anybody have any last things after toothbrushing? Shannon.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy $100 toothbrush. I'm sorry. That's out of my price range. I get the $5 one. It's got a motor.
Scout, that same technology, that same idea might have other applications in areas that you're interested in getting a reputation for working in.
Ah, that's very true.
That's very cryptic too.
It is very
Intentionally
cryptic.
so.
Yeah. I will just put out there. So I've done some work in areas of intimacy, and so looking at what and things like off and on switches or how to recharge devices can be really super tricky, and so some of those could be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, same basic idea could work.
Right. Same sorts of problems we had to deal with the toothbrush, hygiene and waterproof and everything.
probably
Waterproof.
more important to keep it sealed than the toothbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to go any further with this.
So
Right,
sorry to
right.
put your work out there on blast, Scout. Just it really,
I'm not.
I do
I'm
think
not
it's
totally fine with it.
No,
I think it's
I
a
think
good
that's actually
application.
it's really an underappreciated area, and then I've seen that in a couple of articles about intimacy, and it's a big deal, and it's not talked about.
Right.
We have switch adapted kids toys. I'm just saying there's a market for switch adapted kids toys.
Well, as somebody who likes to
underserved
make
market.
there's somebody who likes to make money, I think I have a good idea here.
And there are I really like, there's app controlled things, which are
Right.
great. But they do get pricey really quickly.
Yeah.
So, all right, great way to wrap up.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
Wait, but I'm just gonna say, thanks to Bill Janes here, I have a new well, partly thanks to Bill Janes, I have a new 3D printer.
Ooh, let's go.
And it is, what is it? A Creality K1. It's so fast.
Yeah, it's so fast.
So fast.
And all credit to you, Scott. I don't get any credit. I just happen to be standing there when you got the offer. Congrats.
Hey man, I didn't know, he's trying to give me a scanner, which I'm not ready for. So I have my 4 things that I'm going to take this printer on the road and print these 4 things
Awesome.
Very nice.
at a conference next week.
Cool. Congrats, man.
I'm very excited.
Also,
anyway.
Scott, I did want to ask because the Pennsylvania AT program was like kind of they've done a lot with like the drag pen. Have you been able to print that one out yet?
The one that's like the writing bird?
Essentially, yeah.
I have
the
not.
thing is, like, I
wanted
have the
to print
components,
that.
but I just like trying to get the screws and everything and get the like other like accessories has just been a challenge because I don't want to have to spend my own money. And like trying to get through the university to like pay for it's like been the
No,
challenge. But I want to see how it works well.
I did the ball and I didn't like that. I don't like things where you have to screw it together.
That's the
you
tricky
know?
thing is it definitely makes it much more time consuming, especially like
Yeah.
when you're trying to like when it needs to be adjusted. So basically, all the screwing in of the screws needs to be on the back end by the other.
Yeah. So
Hey, I know
I
we're-
want to make that one though. I will let you know if I
Gotcha.
successfully
Also,
print
let me
that.
know if you need me to send you the file. I'd be happy to do that.
I think it's just on Makers Making Change, right? Is that where you grabbed yours?
No, I think the drag pen is on Print Labs.
Okay.
Well, it's from Print Labs, so I'm not sure if it's on
Okay.
other printables or Thingiverse. It's one of the two.
Okay. I'll look. I'll hitch up if I need it,
Sounds
or maybe we can send each other what we.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cole, could you send me the link too? I'd like to take a look at it.
Yes, yeah, I will send that to you right after this.
All right. And next month, Jessica, who said she couldn't make it today, is gonna do a short, like 15-minute presentation to the group on her latest project. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, I got the drag pen. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is the
that's
one,
it.
Bill. This is
Let me
one we
see.
wanted to try
Everything
out.
Oh, yeah.
Bill. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I know we're out of time here, but just hearing your concerns about what the issues might be with this, another thing we've been working on in the lab might solve your issues here.
Nice.
So
Back.
cliffhanger.
Keep us updated.
Yeah, or maybe shoot me an email or we can chat offline or some other time about what exactly your issues are because
It's more so just like for me, it's just like the frustration of having like the extra components, like the screws and everything. Just like with those kind of prints, it makes it much more time consuming. I'm not able to kind of ship off or
Gotcha.
And
a more timely manner.
it feels like it's dumb, but it's like getting to the hardware store, getting the right size screw. It is a like component that gets tricky or stupid or
Welcome to my office.
Sorry, I got a meeting. I've got to run.
All righty.
So sorry.
They'll talk to me soon.
You got it.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
All right.
Good seeing
Well, any last things or else we're out.
I don't think so.
Sorry I was late.
I know you're all
Real
good.
good talk.
Okay.
Much. Bye, y'all.
Bye everybody.